Welcome to a demonstration of a next-generation HR solution built on Office 365. In this video, we'll be taking a look at SPHR from SP Marketplace. SP Marketplace provides a suite of products that forms a digital workplace on Office 365. You can purchase the products individually, or you can purchase them in suites where they work as an integrated solution to form a digital workplace on Office 365. So once again, in this video, we'll be covering SPHR. If we take a look at most organizations, we hear constantly from HR professionals that there's not enough time, too much paper, and too much manual work in their job. And this really comes from all the different things that happen in HR, and it's usually because they don't have a solution. They're trying to do things with Excel spreadsheets, or they have different pieces and parts to fulfill HR functions. And a lot of it's also just pure organization, which results in a lot of emails and calls from employees asking questions. Employee records are often all over the place, spread across payroll, Excel spreadsheets, and other places, maybe even your Active Directory. Too many time-consuming manual processes, everything from reviews to policy management and onboarding. Redundant data entry all over the place, especially if you have multiple products doing multiple functions in your HR. Tracking compliance and reminders and making sure people are up to date with what they need to work. Onboarding and offboarding new employees is constantly getting harder and harder to do with new regulation. And policy and document organization. All of these overload the HR team. And what you need is something that can address those. And so when we take a look at this, the first thing we see is empower your employees with an online self-service portal so that you can cut down on the calls and they can actually be armed with what they need to answer their questions. Second, eliminate that phone and email if they have to get to you with a service request or an HR help desk application. Now you may think you're too small to do this, but anybody that is an employee out there appreciates the ability, knowing that if they submit something, it's going to be tracked and dealt with. Automate and streamline businesses across the entire HR set of processes, and that can also help reduce paper. And then finally, have a place that you can easily track employee information, compliance, reviews, documents, everything in one place. Well, that's what SPHR is. We bring together SharePoint and Teams, and we have built on top of those a full, complete HR solution, which brings together all the components of HR. So it provides the ability to track employee records and compliance, to track HR policies and procedures, to automate hiring, onboarding, and termination processes, to provide employees with a portal for self-service, and also to track employee performance reviews and so on. So it really is allowing you to leverage what you already probably use, which is Office 365, leveraging SharePoint and MS Teams to provide a complete solution in one place. Now, the way that it's set up is that we actually create it in what we would call a role-based design. So for employees, they can go from your intranet or wherever you might have links to a MyHR self-service portal, which has a help desk built into it. It also has a policies and procedures libraries. They can also access different documents you might want to make available to them, or forms. They could do their own record updates for address or other information updates for the employee records. You can actually post news and events such as training or that type of thing out on this portal, and you can also provide a time off capability or time off process to your employees, or link out to something that you may already have. But it's a single place, a MyHR self-service portal that employees can go to and help themselves, which means less work for you. The second part of it is it's not just helping employees, but helping managers. And we also provide a My Employees area for managers, where they could go in and do employee status changes, such things as promotions, salary changes, and have it automatically go through approvals. Track compliance, making sure that certifications and so on are being renewed. They can get to different documents. It will also automatically remind them of performance reviews that are due. They can submit new job requisitions for openings and actually track through the new hire process and provide input to the HR team. And then finally, the HR team works in the staff portal. And this is where they have all HR functions, tracking employee records, tracking those service requests and assigning those, creating policies, doing policy management and acknowledgments, managing documents, managing performance reviews, managing the hiring process and onboarding process. It is also a collaborative portal that they can share calendars, share task tracking, and so on. And then finally, this is all built out into a complete solution with built-in governance and built-in security so that the different groups don't get at information they're not supposed to. It's all out of the box and pre-built for you. So let's take a look at a demonstration of SPHR. Now this is going to be a multiple part demonstration. First, as a continuation of this video, we'll see an overview tour of 5 to 10 minutes. And then this is actually a playlist, and we can break down the different functions of across the product in 5 to 10 minute videos that are part of this playlist. In this role, I'm actually part of the HR staff. So I'm actually in my Office 365. You can see here's my Outlook, here's all the other things related to Office 365. And it runs in the browser, and it's actually a SharePoint site. Okay, it's also can be accessed from Teams, and we can see that the same home page in Teams is available. And of course you have your collaboration and files and can access Planner and other things too. But the key thing is it is integrated with Office 365 either through SharePoint, you can access it, or through Teams. We're going to do most of this demonstration in SharePoint. Now, this is a secure site. We can see that there's 6 members that can actually access this information. And when we take a look at it, there's a home page that the staff comes into. This is where the staff can see any announcements related to the staff. We link them to different components of the HR or functions of the HR system as well. There is news that can be added, a staff calendar for things like internal staff meetings or trainings or that type of things. And then here's service requests that have been submitted through the employee portal. So again, this acts as kind of the home page. Now, at the core of the HR system is employee records and the different things you can do with employees. So if we take a look at, we can get to the frequently used functions within the HR product here, or on the left-hand side is our menu. And so we can go ahead and get to things like look at all the service requests, assign service requests, add news and announcements, track HR contacts, manage HR policies, and a number of other different things. Again, all through the menu structure. And we also have employee management. So it starts with employee records, but we also keep track of employee updates, changes, all the employee documents, certifications and compliance. If you need to track benefit plans, you can do that, performance reviews, and policy acknowledgments. So not only just the employee records, but all activities related to employees. The next section here is really hiring, and this is where you actually can get job requisitions, track applicants coming in, which you can capture from a career page on your website. So you're no longer having to just get emailed resumes, but they actually can fill out a form, submit a resume, and it comes in and manages that. You can track applicants, weed them out to candidates. You can look across the resumes and so on as well. So handling and automating a lot of the hiring process. And then once you hire somebody, you've actually got an onboarding process. And you can look at the different active onboards. You can set up tasks. You can use DocuSign and other things to do that. And there's a new hire portal as well. So these are the major functions of the HR product: employee management, hiring, onboarding, things like policy management and development in the resources, and then just pure collaboration things of my workspace, shared calendar, links, and task tracking for the HR staff. So that's kind of a quick overview for the HR staff. let's take a look at a couple of other things. There is a Power BI dashboard, but there's also the employee kind of interface, and we'll have a whole section video on that. But when an employee comes in here, they will see a My HR portal. And the great thing about this is they don't have to bug you about finding things. They can get it themselves. They can ask for help through a service request, time off request. They could see their own time off request. They could even update their employee records, such as addresses and those type of things, without, again, bothering you. Useful documents are things like policies, procedures that they can search. There's a knowledge base, and also can link out to other systems, such as maybe your payroll system. You can place announcements out here. You can even have HR contacts that they can just hover over and talk to at any time, and also have different events, HR news, and they can see any service requests that they've submitted. So the key thing here is this is everything that the employee needs to get to as far as resources, information, get answers to questions answered, and so on. So hopefully they don't have to come to you every time to get this, because you've placed this information out there as well. So that is a quick tour of this. We'll go into more detail, and we'll actually sign in. I'm signed in as an administrator here, so I see some things that normal employees wouldn't see. But we'll see what it looks like specifically from a manager's role, from an employee's role, and drill into some of the different functions of the HR product. Okay, back to our demonstration. In this part of the demonstration, we're going to take a look at the hiring functions that are part of SPHR. Now, hiring spans from the original request or job requisition submitted by the manager. And if we took a look earlier at the manager video, we can see where they actually submit the requisitions. So a requisition is exactly what it says. Let's take a look at this. It is basically a description of a opening or a position, and this one's pending approval right now. But we can see that there's a job description, and you can actually, if you want, cross-reference job descriptions from documents or a another list. Location, start date, hiring manager, department. So everything really to describe it. You can also assign it to an HR person here as well. There is approval information, and then we can see cross-referenced with this requisition once it's posted, and you can see all applicants that have applied for the position here and actually open and look at the applicants from here. We also can see which ones made it through to candidates and any approval information for when it was approved and who it was approved by and so on. So that's how it all starts, is a requisition. Now, from the requisition, many companies take many different kind of tracks at this point. Some of them may post the position out to a recruiting site. Obviously, that differs by region of the world that you're in. We don't do anything out of the box to automate that because there's so many of them to do that. But we can customize it to allow you to push this information out to recruiting sites if you have specific ones you want to use. The other thing that we have an option for is to actually post them on your site. So one of the things that we see happens a lot with our customers is they may post it on different recruiting sites. In the US, it's monster.com or Indeed or some of those types of sites. But the key thing you want to do is not necessarily have the interested applicants send you a resume. You want them to come to a career page on your site. And this is an example. It's our scenario company, Radiant Solar. And they have a career page out here that talks about the company. And then what we are able to do with our careers option, career page option, is to actually push that requisition information, the ones that are approved and you wish to push up here, to show on the career page that people can look through. They can look by location and so on. And they want to pick up the position ID, because once they do that, they can actually then fill out a form with their interest and some background information about their skills and so on. They can put that position ID in, they can upload their resume and submit. And this is something that we work with you to place on your website as well. Or if you can't do that, you can even just have the applicant form available for people to fill out too. So a lot of flexibility there. That's why we make these add-in options. Now, where do those forms go? Okay, or you can also, by the way, just do your regular thing with resumes and manually put people into this. But where it goes is our applicants list. So if we look at hiring here, it kind of flows in the cycle. Job requisitions, the applicants that come in, and we cross-reference them. So here's Jim Anderson here. Let's take a look at Jim, and he sent in, he filled out the form, said he was interested, and uploaded his resume, and now he is in as an applicant. This whole list is really built so that you can really weed through the different applicants. Here you can see selected. Jim was selected, but received, rejected. We can actually even build a automated email if they're rejected that says thank you, and so on. We cross-reference it with the requisition, which was that customer service rep, and we actually can say where did Jim come from, and so on. And base information like address, skill set, and resume, and cross-reference that resume that we can take a look at any time. Now, the interesting thing here too is you can put in notes about Jim and share that with the managers, because the managers here also have my applicants and can see those and work with HR to figure out which ones they want to select to take to the next step. And as any of the list, again, you can list applicants. This becomes really your database. We also see people on status. Though they may have been rejected, you may want to add a field that says, future consideration as well. Maybe they didn't fit that job, but you may want to keep them in the database for a future job as well too. For our friends over in Europe with GDPR, you can also have them automatically be deleted at a certain point too, which is, I know some of that regulation. So the next step, though, is once somebody is selected, they become a candidate. And candidates are really what you want to take through the whole process of hiring or of interviewing, hiring, those type of things too. So let's take a look at what happens in a candidate. It's automatically copied over to the candidate list for those that are selected. So here's the candidate. And what we can see now is, again, we bring over the base information. We have status now here, but we also have stages, and you can actually put them through different stages, track the stages where they're at. Again, we bring over the base information, and again, the notes are all date and time stamped, and you can cross-reference it with the resume. So very much kind of the same thing, but now we're putting them through different stages. And one of the things that we can customize is based on the stage. We can actually, generate tasks or whatever to do reference checks, or even cross-reference it with calendars for interviews, and even generate offer letters. That's all custom. It's not part of the base product, but it's something that we can build in because it is somewhat unique to each customer out there. Okay. And so that is hiring. The next step, by the way, is onboarding. So whoever you have as in a hired status, in fact, Jim here, we will actually see that then he feeds into the whole onboarding process, where we save you a lot of time in paperwork and those type of things, and making sure that the things are done, the tasks are done to bring Jim up to speed as quick as possible. So that's our next one. Okay, our next demonstration is of our onboarding functionality. So onboarding is really a place you can save some time. So one of the things that happens is when you have a candidate that gets hired, they move to the next status, which is really onboards. Okay, and so if we remember, Jim Anderson was going through the process of being hired, and now Jim Anderson becomes an onboard. So if we take a look at this, what onboarding is really all about is getting the employee productive as fast as possible. And also, automating as many processes as we can, because as many of you know, onboarding can be a time-consuming task, especially if you're doing paper documents and sign-offs and those type of things. So let's take a look at what onboarding is all about. So if we take a look at Jim Anderson here and open this up, we can see here's Jim Anderson on board, and he was hired here as a customer service rep and so on. His manager is Jeff. This whole onboarding thing has been assigned to Daryl in HR. And what the first thing that we do in working with an onboard is we actually assign a task template. And these tasks are actually tasks within the portal here, the HR portal, but they can also be viewed by anybody coming in to the My HR portal that is part of the onboarding task team. So what we can see is a whole set of tasks here. And this is not just HR tasks, this is IT tasks, this is facilities tasks, and so on. And we can assign these tasks to different people. And what we did is we actually went in and set up this onboard, and I'll show you in just a minute, from a task template for Jim Anderson. Okay, and so that's the first part of the onboarding is task tracking. So let's step back and take a look at how that was actually set up. If we go to onboarding here, we can see that we have a list here called standard tasks, and there is managing standard task onboards here, and the standard tasks are really all about setting up task lists. Okay, here's apply standard tasks, and applying them as a template to this. So you can see that we have several ones. So here's the Jim Anderson onboard. We can select that, and then we can put in a category of tasks here. And so Jim is actually part of the services, and so we would do the services onboard and hit apply. And it will actually then add that whole set of tasks to the Jim Anderson onboard. That's how we got there. And it actually executes the job and copies tasks from standard onboard tasks. This is managing those and setting those up as a template. So that's how the task got there. And you can actually go in and configure the onboard categories. These are the categories. And then you can actually manage the standard onboard tasks. So if we take a look at this, this is all the standard onboard tasks. You can see what type of category it is, and you can add tasks, you can assign people, do all that, and it becomes a template. Okay, and so these are the ones here that were assigned to Jim, which was the services. Where was the services ones? And service onboard. Here we go. And these all showed up under Jim. So in essence, you can set up a standard task list and be able to then apply it to the onboard of choice. Okay, and then what happens when those tasks get assigned, all the people that are assigned those tasks actually get emails, whether it's in IT or facilities or wherever it might be, setting up the office, setting up their user IDs and so on, and they can come in and manage the task through the onboarding staff here as well. And that's through, again, the employee portal. But most importantly, they get an email notifying them that they have been assigned this task to. Now, we're also working on bringing this into Planner in the future, and that will be something that we add to this. So that's one part of onboarding. Now, a second part of onboarding, and this is an option here, is actually automating some of the document signing. And this is where the options of DocuSign and Adobe Sign come in. And so what you can actually do is go in and set up what's called in DocuSign an envelope. And you can say get signatures. And you select this, and it actually sends a DocuSign to his personal email, and he signs those documents. And those documents actually come back into the onboarding documents here. And here we see the document, DocuSign, and it's brought back in after he signs. So that's the kind of really neat connection between DocuSign and SharePoint is that you can automate that whole process, then bring these in, review them, and then you can actually move them right into the employee documents when you're ready to. So that's a second automation here, and that is an option. The DocuSign is an option, and the Adobe Sign is an option. And what you do is you set up some standard documents in those, and then it sends it out and asks the target, which would be Jim in this case, to sign those documents coming in. Now, there is actually a third way that you can do it, and this is the self-service way, and you may want to do a combination of both of these, and that is the new hire portal. We have a new hire portal that if you set Jim up with his ID up here, that you can then send him a link and say, go to our new hire portal. From there, Jim can actually put in some employee record data. Okay, so you set up the base employee record. He can add all the data that's appropriate for the employee to put in, address, emergency contact information, much the same information that employees can change from the employee portal. If you're in the U.S., you can actually list the benefit options here and suggest which ones for what state or whatever they're in. You can also go in and instead of using DocuSign, have them download the document templates from here, sign them, and they're usually in PDF form, and then be able to upload them right here as well. So that's another way of doing it. And of course, you can put in nice things like videos or a message from the CEO welcoming them or something like that. This is all editable, and even link them to employee orientation sign up or video or whatever you might have there. And even as we saw in other areas, you can even have employee ambassadors out here. Usually it's not your CEO, but they could go in and ask questions and do those type of things here too. So multiple types of onboarding. You can have just simple onboarding with tasks, and then send them to the new hire portal. You can use DocuSign and Adobe Sign to automate the documentation process. You can still use this portal if you wish. You just can hide this document templates capability there too. And as well, the nice thing is you can also manage all onboarding tasks. So here we have all onboards here. This is over in and I can see, for each onboard we only have one. I can see exactly what the status is of all the tasks related to onboarding Jim. And you can also give access to the manager for that too. Okay, in this video, I'm back in the HR staff role. And what we're going to look at in this short video will be how to use the HR help desk or service request system. So if I take a look at this and I go to service request, what we'll see is all the service requests that have been entered. And if you remember, there was one, just had a baby, what do I do? This actually comes in. It actually can send a notification to whoever is responsible for service requests. You can set that up automatically here. And so you don't have to look at this list necessarily to see a new one. It's also on the front page for unassigned ones. But what I can do is I can go in, I can select this. Now, I go up here and hit edit, and now I'm actually working with the service request and I can assign it. So here is the new service request and that just came in. Now you see one of the things that happens with the product is the forms change based on who the person is using it. So for the end user or the employee, it was a very simple form. But now it shows these extra tabs in here because I'm part of the HR staff. So I'm going to say this was a question, and I'm going to assign it to Brandon Johnson, who's part of our HR staff. And I can at any time also put in work log information. So I can actually go in and tell Brandon, make sure you use the 2000 2021 forms. When it's a new year, you never know what's going to happen. It could be that he sent the 2020 forms. And then all I have to do is hit save. Now what will happen is Brandon will get an email as part of the HR staff, and he can actually link straight to it. And he can also come into this and see at any time my assigned requests up here. And you can see that I don't have any. I've been assigning them all away. So I'll go in and go back to all service requests here too. So this is in essence how you can manage service requests. I can search for service requests if I want to go in and search for any ones assigned to Brandon. I can sort these. It's just like Excel. I can put in request categories. I only want to see the benefits request categories. So I can go here and filter by and say I'd like to see the benefits ones. And there they all are. Or I can clear this as well. So I can go in and filter by and say clear all. So very much like an Excel spreadsheet, I can go in and do many reporting on different service requests as well too. Now Brandon will have gotten an email, and so he would come in here. He'd probably go in and send off whatever forms or links to forms to Daryl, who requested this, or David Demo actually was the requester. And then he could go in and edit this again. And we can see all work log items are date and time stamped. And he could go in and say all done. He'd go in and put to the work log, sent out correct forms. And then here he could go right over and say now this is closed and the resolution was sent forms to employee. Okay, and this will actually show up in the message to David Demo. And he'll see that as part of this closing, and it'll automatically put in a close date. So, and I'll hit save. And that's all there is to working with a service request. The nice thing is you can track all requests that come in and make sure that they're actually being taken care of. Much better than email. Emails can get lost. This actually tracks all information about this. And you can even do reporting. So you could say, show me how many requests we've had by month. And you can go in there and track that as well. Very useful, by the way, if you're hiring a lot of people, but management's not giving you any new HR resources, you can show the growth in requests that have happened. So that's service requests. We'll also see that there is a dashboard that shows how many service requests have come in. And this is something called Power BI, and you can see request by month, year, and so on. You can even say, I want to see just all the requests for May, and everything changes dynamically. So nice dashboard to show that. We'll also see that a little bit later when we talk about employee information. As an employee, when I visit HR, it automatically redirects me to the My HR portal. This is the service portal for HR. So as an employee, I can come in and see, first of all, announcements or news from HR. So it's a place to get updated on what's going on related to HR. There's also a place for HR contacts. I can actually hover over Brandon here and talk with him or chat with him. This is all because this is all built into Office 365. I can see any events, and in fact, if I click on this event, I can choose to add it to my Outlook calendar. I can see any news. Looks like we've added a new account manager here. I can see the status of my service request that I've put in as well. Also, from here, I can also submit a new service request, put in new time off request, update my employee records, take a look at useful documents, and look at the knowledge base, answer my own questions as well. If I'm a new hire, also I can go to the new hire portal for direction and orientation, that type of thing. And I can also link to our payroll system and see my latest paycheck here too. So it is a service portal just for me so that I can see all my information and things that I need. So first of all, I'm going to go in and submit a new help desk or service request. Okay, I open up a service request. I can put in information. So maybe I put in, just had a baby. What do I do now? Very open question. And it automatically recognizes David. If it's somebody putting it in for another employee, they can do that and put the name in. This would be for employees that don't have Office 365 IDs. He's really asking about benefits, and he needs to know what forms do I need to fill out for a new family member. Now, he could have also gone into the knowledge base, and hopefully there was a question like this and he could have gotten the answer and so on as well. So once they tell him the forms, by the way, he can resubmit the service request and add the form as an attachment as well. But we're going to just go ahead and hit save, and then that will allow it to go into the service request for the HR staff, and David can actually check the status of that service request down here at any time. So that's all about submitting a service request, and what will happen also is if David goes to his email, he'll also see a confirmation when the service request is submitted here, and then also when it's completed, he'll also get an email confirmation. So that's all about service requests. Let's go take a look at, let's say he wants to update his employee record. All he has to do here is select this. Now from here, David wants to update some things, and perhaps he wants to change some information, perhaps address or phone, email, or that type of thing. Let's say he changed his personal phone number or personal email, and it is now davidD@gmail.com. And he hits save, and that's all there is to updating this. And what will happen is HR gets a notification that there's been a change. They review it and can update the employee database. Now that's one of the key things here is David can never get at the employee database. Only the HR people can actually approve changes directly to the database, and these are all kind of auditable transactions as well. So David can also, if you're using our time off request system, we've got that built into the HR product, or if you already have one, you can change this link to go out to another HR time off system. So with this, David could go in and perhaps he wants to take a long weekend. In February. It's going to be PTO, and amount requested, he's just going to take 8 hours off one day. The start date of it will be February 12th and return on Monday the 15th. Okay, it'll automatically go to David's manager based on who he reports to in Active Directory as well. Now David can also check his own PTO data and see how much balances he has to make sure he can do this. And by the way, this is also made available to whoever is doing the approval. So David hits save, and again he'll get an email to confirm and an email once it's been approved. Now another thing that he can do is also go in and view what we call useful documents. These are public documents presented by the HR staff. Perhaps he wants to look for a policy or a form. He can either browse just by clicking here and seeing the different policies out there, or he can also search the library at any time. So if we go up here and search the library, he could go in and, for instance, look for a direct deposit form. And it'll pop up automatically right here, and he can open up the form. There's also a knowledge base that David could go in and search for any answers to questions. He can also go out to his paycheck and see his latest paycheck, which will take him out to ADP or whatever Radiant Solar happens to use here too. So that's kind of an overview of the My HR portal as well. And we'll also see out here that a recent employee record update went in, service request went in as well. So these are all the notifications that are automatically built into this. So that's a quick overview of the My HR portal and how an employee can go in and get their own information, documents, and so on. Now I'm back in as David Demo, but in this role I'm actually a manager. And managers come into the same My HR portal, but if they are in the manager's permission group, okay, it allows them to do some additional functions kind of on a My Employee basis. So one of the things they can do is make change requests. So salary changes, promotions, those type of things, and submit those. A second thing that they can do is My Performance Reviews. The system will automatically remind managers and the employee of when performance reviews are due. The manager can then click on this, or it takes them automatically to it from the email, and they can download the form template and then submit the performance review here and be able to see the status of any performance review. Another one is job requisitions. We'll see there's none here, but they can submit a job requisition just by hitting new, and it will be for new jobs. It will actually go through an approval. They can put in the description, the location, that type of thing. Once a job requisition is put in, they can look at My Applicants and see all the applicants for the jobs that have come in and work with HR to select the applicants that will then move on to candidates, and then as well. They also can see time off calendar for their employees as well too. So these are all things that are relevant to being a manager and managing your employees as well. In this video, we're going to take a look at the kind of core of SPHR, and that's the employee management functions. Okay, and it all starts with employee records. We also track record updates. Those we saw earlier in the employee portal, that they can submit updates to their employee data. Employee changes are what we saw in that same video from managers. Those are changes in status such as salary changes, promotions, those type of things, transfers. There's an employee documents library, employee compliance or certifications tracking, and we'll take a look at that. Benefits and benefits selected by employees. This is mostly used in the U.S. And can be hidden. And by the way, any of these things can be hidden if you're not going to use them. Performance reviews, and then policy acknowledgments. And there will be a whole separate section video on policy acknowledgments and performance reviews. But let's go take a look at the core of this. You can either select it from here or from here, and that's the employee records themselves. So each employee has an employee record, and represented here. Now, one of the things you'll see, though, is when I open up the employee record, we'll see all the employee information, who they report to, and so on. But also, we'll see cross-references to all the different activities related to the employee. And that's what we call a super view. Okay, so if I click on Donna Martin here, this is what we call a super view. And what you'll see is everything related to Donna we are able to see in one place. So, of course, we have a number of different fields here. We have fields that describe Donna, okay, what her status is. And you never delete employees, by the way, for history type and legal reasons. You can make them inactive. You can keep track of different types of employees, what their role is in the organization, and of course hire date, source of hire. You can even track, did they come in directly or from a recruiter, and date of exit, reason for exit, and all those. And then of course all the general information here as well, and contact information, as what address and so on, emergency contact information, all the usual things that you would need to keep for an employee. The next tab here is notes, and this is any notes about this employee. This is important, and we have date and timestamps of who made the notes. This could be good performance notes. This could be other things that you need to know as well. There's payroll information. This is not necessarily pulled from the payroll system, but is really for reporting purposes as well as change purposes. So when we take a look at record updates or changes submitted, we can see when the last salary change was and the percentage and so on. Learning and awards is exactly what it says. If you have training classes you want to keep track of what employees have taken them, this is where you can do that. And also background information on Donna as well. Information about performance reviews. What was her last rating? When was her last review? When's the next one due? And if you have this checked, which is by default, it will automatically send an upcoming review reminder 30 days before this date to Donna and her manager. We can also see a history of all the reviews that Donna has had as well and open them up. This is a cross-reference with the reviews document library. Speaking of documents, we also can see all documents in the employee documents related to Donna and be able to do them from here. You can actually add documents right from the record here, or you could add them when you're actually in the library itself. We have benefit plans. This is what benefit plans Donna is on. This is mostly used in the United States. However, you could apply this, and we've customized it to track cars and cell phones and other things too, related to employees. Certifications, very important, especially in healthcare and other regulated industries out there. And so we keep track of any certifications Donna has to have, what the renewal dates are. And again, we can add more here. We'll be talking about certifications in just a few minutes. And then record updates. This is all record updates. So if Donna had a change, looks like she had a position change and a salary change in her history there. This was submitted by her manager and went through approval. And then record changes. We saw in an earlier video how employees could do this, and this one was an address change for Donna. And then finally, we have policy acknowledgments. And this shows what policy group Donna is in. She's a California employee, so she needs to acknowledge any related California like employee handbook, and she did that here, and that shows the acknowledgement, and it shows a history of acknowledgments too. So the nice thing about this is everything about Donna is right here in this super view. Now back to the employee records. Now just like some of the other data lists that we've seen here, you have capabilities to do a lot of different things. So if you just want to see, for instance, again, all the permanent employees, you could filter to that. There are many different views. So I could look at all employees by department, okay, and be able to look across departments here. I could look at them by location as well, and look at the different employees in different job locations too. I could also go in and look at them by employee type. I could see upcoming reviews, which policy groups people are in, and a performance and appraisal report. So many different types of views of employees, and it makes it very easy to manage across many different employees. So that's kind of the employee record side of it. But now let's go and see what other things we have. So when we look at record updates here, this again is changes of status for different employees out here. In employee management, we also have employee changes. This is a record of all changes that were submitted by employees too. So position change, this is actually the position changes and so on. The last one I showed you was record updates, addresses, and so on. Now it's important that we keep this information because we actually had an example of one customer, a manufacturing customer, where a worker got hurt out there, and they couldn't contact the emergency contact of that worker. And the family was going to sue the company because they couldn't contact him. Well, it turns out that the employee actually put the wrong phone number in for his wife. And so that was clearly the fault of the employee. They finally obviously did get in contact with him, but there was a delay. But the company was saved because they had an audit log of all contacts in here as well. Another important area here is employee documents. This is a list of all documents. It is a document library here, but you can also go in and look at documents such as all I-9s. If you have to do an immigration audit or something like that, you've got I-9s for every employee here shown. And so again, you can go in and do different things here. We'll look at later, by the way, you can use Adobe Sign or DocuSign to get things signed off. That's part of our onboarding. Another very important part is certifications. And this is certifications for all employees, so safety certifications, could be other types of certifications, quality certifications, and it will highlight people that are past due on their certifications. But this also allows you to go in and put training links into certifications as well, so that when you do alert an employee and their manager that a certification is coming up, you can also include that link to renew the certification in the actual certifications themselves too. Other things in employee management, we had talked a little bit about benefits. You can actually define benefit plans in here and what benefit plans you offer in the United States, especially with multiple state type companies. This happens to be Radiant Solar in our scenario here, and it operates across California, Nevada, and Arizona. And so there's many different benefit plans by where the employee is located. And so just keeping track of all those benefit plans and which employees are on which plans, that's really what this benefit selected does. And we can see for any employee what plans they're on, the effective and termination dates, and other things you may want to keep track of, like dependents and what level of deduction and stuff like that the employee's on as well too. And then finally, down here we have performance reviews. We're going to do a separate review of that, but this is all performance reviews for any employees. This is what was cross-referenced for Donna in that case. And also we have policy acknowledgments, and this is where when you have a new policy such as a handbook, employee handbook, or some other type of policy that you need them to acknowledge, or it's not really a sign-off, it's called the electronic sign-off. We have a process for doing that, and we'll be doing a separate video there, but we can see all employee acknowledgments here. So that's really the employee management side of this. Now, one other nice thing too that I'll show you is we also use Power BI and a dashboard to keep track of employee information and trends and so on. So let's take a look at that. Okay, this is the HR dashboard. We just clicked on HR dashboard on the front page, and it brings up the employee information dashboard. So we can see employee change count per month. We can actually go in and filter it by years or quarters or departments or locations as well. Here's employees by type, by role, by department, by location, and so on. And as we showed earlier, even certifications do here. You can click on any one of these and see it all filtered down to just that year, for instance, and it'll dynamically change. So that's really been kind of an overview of how we handle employee data. We do have options such as when employee records get updated to actually update their profile in their Active Directory. For instance, who they report to and so on. We have an option that we can push that information up there. Also, when you're populating your employee data, you can do that from an Excel spreadsheet that perhaps you exported from your payroll system to get it started. You don't have to type all this information in as well too. So that is an overview of employee records management and employee information management in SPHR. In this video of the SPHR demonstration series, we're going to show the performance review function. Now for this one, we'll actually talk about the process and what the automation is in it and how it works with performance reviews. So the process is in the employee record list. We actually keep records of performance reviews. So we keep the last rating, the last review information, and the last review date, and we actually cross-reference the review itself. We also have some fields in there for next review as well, and the next review date and the period of time, whether it's 90 days or a year or annual review or what. And we use that to actually increment it when the last review goes in. So 30 days before that date, the system scans all the employees, and if it's 30 days before that date in the employee record for the next performance review, it generates an email which notifies the manager of this and actually provides a link to the performance review site page. In that page, the manager can download the review template. Now, this is a document, and we use documents because we find it's actually that people change their performance reviews sometimes every year or at different times, the actual form itself. So we think it's better to actually use a review form. And at this point, then the automation of the system stops. The manager conducts the performance review with the employee. They may both fill it out. The manager may fill it out. There's a dozen different ways that companies choose to do this, and this is another area that they change. So we think that this, should go on manually. Let them conduct the review. Once the review is done and filled out and the rating's done, the manager goes back to that performance review portal page, uploads the completed review, which automatically generates an approval there. Typically, it's to the manager's manager, and then routes it, over to HR, and then it automatically, once it's approved, updates the employee record with the rating, the review, and then next the review date, and then the cycle starts all over. So that is what happens as far as the automation. And the automation points really are two areas. The reminder and notification to the manager and the downloading of the performance review. The review is conducted, and then the automation starts again when the manager uploads the review. An approval happens, and then it updates the employee record. So what we're really doing is automating the administrative process on each side of the actual review being done, but not the actual review. Okay, and that leaves the key reason for doing it this way. And after 8 years of providing HR solutions out here, we found that you can actually automate the reviews too much, or somebody can invest a whole bunch of money in making sure everything's automated perfectly across the whole thing, especially that middle part. And then a new VP of HR comes in and changes everything. You got to rewrite the whole system. And with this, you can change the review content in the review form. You can change how the review is conducted along the way, and so on. But on each side of the review, that automation is pretty consistent across many organizations. So we find it provides the flexibility needed for that. So let's take a look at the actual product. So as mentioned, everything starts with the employee record, and this is where we keep the review information. So I'm in Donna Martin's employee record here. If you want to take a look at what's in the rest of the employee record here, there is a video about that. But in the performance review, we have the current rating, we have the reviewer appraisal. You can also add other fields here as well. The date of last review, the next review date here, and you can turn on and off the reminder that actually kicks off the review process. And then down here, I can actually open up and look at Donna's last review. This is the document of the last review a year ago. So this is where everything happens. And so the system actually scans this next review date, and based on that next review date, it will actually generate a notification email as well. Okay, and this is what the email looks like that I get. It lets me know that one of my employees needs a performance review. It gives the review date and the employee, and then I can click and get right to the portal for performance reviews that is specifically for managers, so I can download the form. All right, and here is the performance reviews portal for managers. Again, they can see any performance reviews that for any of their employees, as well as submit new reviews and actually download a template. So I can go here, download the correct review template that I'm going to use with Donna. Donna is not a manager, she's just a professional, so we're going to go ahead and just download this. I can select it and click download and download it right here as well. So I've downloaded the template. In this case, there's two sections here. There's and the process is that the manager fills out section 1, and the employee then can fill out section 2, and then they both set goals and objectives. Okay, so the process between the manager and the employee is really kind of driven by the form, and it's done directly between them. So let's say that I've filled this out with Donna, and we're ready to submit this as a finished performance review. So I come into the performance reviews portals. By the way, there's instructions down here to managers on how to do this. And I go in, I can submit the performance review. It brings up the submission form. And by the way, the manager will actually see this tab and this tab only. I'm actually an admin, so I see a couple other tabs here. But I could go in and say, Donna Martin 2021 review. And I am the requester, and this is going for approval. I'll put in Donna Martin. And if the employee, here doesn't have this ID, you can also put in their name. Performance reviews normal, and I really don't have to put in a whole bunch of information here. And I can just attach this and submit it. So I'll just go in, attach the review. Hit OK. And then I can submit. Now, the submission actually comes in. HR can review it, and the manager actually fills in these basic fields here, what the rating was and so on. It takes a look at the date of next review, increments it a year, and then HR actually goes in and reviews it and says go ahead and upload to performance reviews in the employee record, and brings the document into the performance reviews library. And if I go into Donna's employee record now, which we saw earlier, we can see that we've updated the rating and the review. Here's the actual review here, and it has incremented the date. So that is the actual employee review process. Let's take a look at some of the kind of list reporting and views you can see. The other thing that's a little, I can't necessarily easily record here, but it also sends reminders to the manager if it goes on the date and past the date too. Now let's take a look at some reporting based on performance reviews. I'm in our employee records, and what we'll see is that we actually have some views here. So I can look across all performance reviews here, and this is across employees here. And we've got some color coding. So the top 20% is green, the bottom 30% is red, and you can set your own color codes. The other ones you can see is red here. This means it's past due. The review is past due here. Now we can also go in and do some grouping and review them. I could go in and review upcoming reviews, and it looks like there's only one, and in fact this one's the overdue one. There's also an overdue view. The other view I could do is by performance rating, so we can actually see them, and it's not necessarily the number rating, it's the rating here. We've got some that haven't had reviews done yet as well. They're new employees. But we can see that ones that exceed expectations, there's 4 there. There is 2 here that are in danger of termination, and also meets expectations and so on. So you can do a full analysis of your performance reviews, and that tends to be very helpful. Also on our dashboard, there also in the Power BI is also some review information. So that's all about performance reviews. In this video for HR, we're going to look at the policy management and policy acknowledgement by employees functions. So first of all, let's look at how we manage policies. If I go over to our department resources and I click on HR policies, it will bring up the HR policy library. This is where we actually develop policies and manage policies. So we've just come into the new year and we're a bit behind right now, and we really need to have the updated employee handbooks out there for our company. And our company operates in 3 states, California, Nevada, and Arizona. So unfortunately, that means we also need to have a handbook for each of these. So we've actually made the changes, and the Arizona Employee Handbook has been published. We'll take a look at that in a minute. But I'm ready to actually finish off the California Employee Handbook for 2021 here. So the first thing that we do in our HR department is we need to get it signed off by the HR director and possibly the CEO, but let's go ahead and get this first sign off. So all I have to do is select the document here. I go to Automate and Request Sign Off. By selecting the document, I can go in here and request the approver. Okay, and I'll have our CEO be the approver. I can put a message in here. Please do a final review on the new CA handbook so we can publish. And I'll just say run flow. Okay, and we can see the sign-off status has gone to pending. And I'm going to go in and let's take a look at my email here. And here is the approval flow, and I can actually go link to the handbook and take a look at it. We won't do that just to save some time here. And I'm going to go ahead and approve it, and I'll enter in comments, and I'm playing the role of the approver, the CEO. And I will just submit that. Now in my email, I see that the handbook has been signed off on, and so now I can go ahead and work on publishing that. And then we'll put in place the employee acknowledgments of the new employee handbook. So now we can see it's an improved status. So now what I want to do is actually save this, go into Word, and then save it as a PDF here so that I can move it to a published status, and we'll move it to the published folder, and then we'll actually copy it to the employee portal folder, and also I'm going to copy it up to the Doc Central Policies folder. You don't need it in both places, but if you only have our HR product, employees can access it through the employee portal, or if you have our intranet, self-service intranet, then Doc Central is where we will push it up to. Okay, and I didn't record this part of it because it's pretty standard. I went into the Word document here saved as a PDF. We're going to leave the Word document because it is the source document in the development folder. And then I'm going to go ahead and move this. I could have saved as and put it right in the published folder as well, but we'll just show how we can move it into the published folder here. So I will go here. I will then move to published folder. I could have also copied and left the PDF in there, but there's no reason really for that. And I'll just say current library, and let's move it to published policies. Move here. Okay, and now it's out in published policies. Now again, this library is only available to HR staff. So what the next thing we'll need to do here from a published perspective is to actually copy it to the portal folders, which is in the employee portal, and that's where it can be accessed there. So let's go here. Let's go ahead and just say copy and copy to. And instead of going to this, we're going to actually put it into portal documents, which is our public folder, and we'll say copy it here, and now it will actually be copied and available into the employee self-service folder. It'll also come up in any searches from Doc Central too. Okay, the next step in processing the policy is to set up the policy acknowledgement. And so for this, I go to Policy Management. And this is a list which actually tells the system what you want to do with this policy. So here's the old employee handbook, California employees here. And I could just copy this, really, because it's the same thing, over. And or I could go in and put a new one in. Okay. Let's go ahead and set up the actual acknowledgement process for this new California handbook here. So I'm going to go in and say this is the California Employee Handbook 2021. Okay, this is just the title of the setup for this thing. I'll need to cross-reference that. So there is this. It only shows the published ones. And then I'm going to need to pick a policy group. Now what this is it is a group of employees, a list of employees that need to get this document. And so that would be all employees who reside in California. The due date for this I'm going to put as, we need this by really the end of the month. And then I can put email text. And this will appear in the email. And I'll go ahead and type the rest of it here. Okay, to save time, I've gone ahead and built this out. So it's going to the California Employees group. It will be emailed there. The due date is 1/30/2021. The email text that will appear in here is in the acknowledgement email is this. And it will actually provide them a reminder email if we've not received the acknowledgement back from them 1 day before the due date as well. And it'll also send overdue ones out to them as well, and in some cases copy their boss. So that's all there is to set this up. I will hit save, and it will actually go ahead and then send out the email to that population of employees, the California employees. Now we can see that this is now changed to starting, which means it's still sending out. Once it completes the complete sending out of the acknowledgements, and I just heard that I've got one, then it will change to in process, and then once everybody's acknowledged it, it will change to completed. Okay, I'm in my email, and this is what I got as an employee. It has the text up here. If you have any questions here, and Doc Central or HR, you could actually put links to those here. It's where they can actually get to the policy. So I'm going to go ahead here and reply. And I'm just going to say, as it instructs, yes, and send. So let's say I go to lunch, come back in a couple hours, and I want to check and see how it's going. I can go into the employee management area, and down here is policy acknowledgments, and it shows policy acknowledgments by all employees. Okay, if I take a look at this, I can see here's my Daryl Trimble acknowledged it, and that's my status. This shows all employees, not just who acknowledged, but what their status is, whether it's been sent, whether it's been not acknowledged. That turns to not acknowledged after the due date as well, and then it will automatically send an email to remind them, and also to their manager. as well. So this is how we can actually track this. And in the employee record too, it actually, if I were to look at the Darrell Trimble employee record, it will actually show all my acknowledgments. I can also look at different views of this. So here it is by policy review. And here we can see the one that was just went out, and I can look at the status here. I can also go in and see who has acknowledged. I can actually do a filter here and say, look, I just want to filter by and see acknowledged ones. And here we can see, in fact, I'm the only one that has acknowledged it for this policy. So that's really all about policy management and policy acknowledgement. Very simple system, very easy to use, and for the employee, they don't even have to come to the HR portal. It's all right there. I do also want to show you what happened with the policy and how it is available to employees. So if you just have our HR package, the useful documents here from the employee portal will have the policy published out to it. Here's policies. And we can see the California 2021 handbook. If I have the intranet package, self-service intranet package as well, the policy will appear in Doc Central. And I could either search for it, or we can just go ahead and take a look for it here in browsing the different policies. And here's the policies library. And in HR policies, we can see here is the new California handbook available for people. And of course, that will come up in a search too. So that is the policy management functions within SPHR. Again, the ability to develop policies, get them signed off, publish the policies out to the portals where either the HR employee self-service or up in our self-service area for across all departments in the intranet area. And then we also showed you how to set up electronic acknowledgement and how that works. A lot of time saving here. No more, having to sign off on individual, documents and live things. And it gives you the legal acknowledgement required, especially since it's through their email which is the authenticated source.